Fights, drugs, and injuries galore. If Marilyn Manson loves anything, it's shocking people. Or trying to, at least. The band Marilyn Manson released their first album in 1994. Almost immediately, Marilyn Manson himself began making headlines for his untoward, relentlessly provocative, and possibly illegal onstage antics.
I think your quality as an artist is measured equally by people that dislike you and people that love you.
During a December 1994 show in Jacksonville, not far from the band's origin point of Fort Lauderdale, Manson performed what appeared to be a sexual act on Jessica, singer for the band Jack Off Jill, with whom the band had shared a bill. Jessica was actually wearing a prosthetic recreation of the male sexual organ at the time, but Manson was still arrested for what he described in his memoir as violating the adult entertainment code, for allegedly performing a male-on-male sexual act in public and urinating on members of his audience. Manson was held overnight by police. He was later released without charge. Marilyn Manson usually performs shirtless, a confrontational choice that allows the audience to see the self-inflicted scars on his body. While he was a self-described cutter in his youth, Manson gave himself one of his most prominent and lasting wounds in full view of the crowd. In 1995, Manson played a concert in San Francisco. During the show, the musician broke a beer bottle and then used a large piece of the shattered glass to stab himself in the chest. In his memoir, Manson recalled, "I took the jagged half bottle and plunged it into the side of my chest, dragging it across my skin until it reached the other side, and creating one of the deepest and biggest scars on the latticework that is my torso." Marilyn Manson broke through into the commercial mainstream with the hit single The Beautiful People in 1996, and a cover of Eurythmics' own hit Sweet Dreams. Both the band and the man himself were poised for even more success thanks to the growing support of the upper echelon of the music industry, and they played a showcase for such people in New York City in September 1996. It did not go well. During the band's set at Manhattan's Irving Plaza venue, Manson reportedly threw his microphone stand at his drummer, Ginger Fish. The piece of equipment knocked Fish in the head so squarely and severely that the concert ended after that song. Fish, who had been left temporarily unconscious from the blow, was removed from the club via an ambulance and taken away to receive treatment for his injury. DJ Moby, who attended the gig, later said, "It was disgusting. I'm waiting to see if the police want witnesses. That kind of violence is totally unnecessary on stage." A November 2000 Marilyn Manson show at New York City's Hammerstein Ballroom almost went off without a hitch, apart from the choreographed chaos that's a requisite part of any of the band's concerts.
I represent what everyone's afraid of because I do and say what I want.
During the last scheduled song of the evening, however, Marilyn Manson himself decided to tear apart the drum set while Ginger Fish continued playing it. Fish eventually joined in the fracas, and the bandmates got so caught up in the destruction of their own gear that the drummer lost his balance and fell onto the stage below. Manson continued to perform and eventually left the stage with the rest of the band, while Fish continued to lay immobile on the ground. About a half an hour later, the house lights came on and emergency medical workers were allowed to go up on stage and treat Fish for his injuries. Doctors at a local hospital diagnosed the drummer with a fractured collarbone. Meanwhile, the Marilyn Manson website announced he is feeling fine and will not miss any shows. The Marilyn Manson traveling stage circus descended on the Detroit area in July 2001, with a show at the DTE Energy Music Theater in Clarkston, Michigan. Manson did what he usually did during concerts, growling out lyrics and stalking menacingly about the stage, until he approached security guard Joshua Kiesler, who was standing at ground level beneath the stage. While dressed in a stage outfit of skimpy leather underwear and hosiery, Manson twisted his legs around the neck of the guard and moved around provocatively, simulating sexual behavior. After the concert, Manson was arrested by local police. Initially charged with a count of improper sexual conduct, the singer entered a plea of no contest to disorderly conduct and assault and battery, paying a fine of $4,000. Kiesler subsequently filed a civil suit, accusing Manson of sexual assault and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The two sides reached an out-of-court settlement of an undisclosed sum. In 2003, Marilyn Manson played Rock am Ring, a hard rock festival in Germany. During the band's performance of The Beautiful People, Manson approached his guitarist, John Five, and kicked him through his instrument and in the chest. John Five was used to this, calling it a common occurrence on stage, but this time it escalated into more violence. He took off his instrument and threw it down after Manson shoved him a few more times and acted like he wanted to fight.
I was so angry inside and so tired and exhausted, I just snapped.
When John 5 backed down, Manson retreated. Speaking about his reaction to his bandmates' provocation, John 5 pointed out that he was grieving his sister at the time.
I was just, in a state of shock.
John 5 left the band just a few months later. In 2012, the Australian alt-rock festival Soundwave welcomed two headliners fond of makeup, costumes, and shock value, Marilyn Manson and Slipknot. Manson played first, and the set progressed less than smoothly, with the band's frontman engaging in odd and aggressive behaviors. Aside from frequently telling the crowd how drunk and high on drugs he was, he also dumped a container of what appeared to be cocaine all over the band's bass player. When he wasn't singing, he was fighting with stagehands or reciting slurred, improvised free verse poetry instead of lyrics. The crowd, consisting primarily of ardent Slipknot fans at that point, grew increasingly agitated by Manson's actions. When crew members began building the Slipknot stage set as Marilyn Manson was still performing, audience members repeatedly chanted Slipknot over and over, which upset the singer so much that he walked off the stage in the middle of a song. When Marilyn Manson acts strangely during a performance, it's usually out of choice, or because he's consumed a substance of some kind. On one occasion, however, Manson's antics were attributed to a viral infection. TCU Place in Saskatchewan hosted a Marilyn Manson concert in February 2013. The show went along as planned, until the singer repeatedly vomited on stage. Then, during The Beautiful People, Manson abruptly stopped singing and collapsed where he stood. The rest of the band continued on, having believed the singer's barfing to be an act, but Manson didn't move until stage crew arrived to help him backstage. Manson went to a hotel room to convalesce. He had reportedly felt ill before the concert, but decided to proceed anyway. The diagnosis? Flu. Marilyn Manson performed in Pittsburgh in September 2017. While the group tore through The Beautiful People, Manson himself attempted to do a little crowd work by singing into the faces of the fans behind the barricades separating the stage from the audience. As he descended from the stage, however, Manson slipped. When he headed back up, it was clear that he was having trouble walking. He ordered his backing band to stop playing and then told the crowd what was going on, saying, "I just broke my ankle, but it's okay because Alice Glass is going to fill in for me." Of course, this was news to Glass, who had opened for Manson that night. Bafflingly, Manson continued, "Come on, you can do it. I told you I'd break my ankle because the tour manager is a fascist."
We're in a bully culture where it's like names and blames, and we just need to move past all that.
Despite the band's lead singer suffering a hurt ankle at the Pittsburgh show in September 2017, Manson's tour continued uninterrupted, heading to New York City for a show at the Hammerstein Ballroom the very next night. As the band worked its way through its cover of Sweet Dreams, Manson decided to climb up onto the centerpiece of the stage decorations. Witnesses later said that Manson took just one step onto the huge prop, which is all it took for the entire weighty apparatus to instantly disassemble and fall down on top of the singer. Members of the group and stage workers rushed in to rescue Manson, but he still wasn't able to get back on his feet. One attendee told the BBC he was pretty limp, almost as though he was unconscious. Manson was draped with a black cloth and escorted off stage before organizers canceled the show. The band subsequently called off the rest of their tour.
The bone is healed. It's just the muscle damage, the ligaments.
To make up dates after the Hammerstein Ballroom fiasco, Marilyn Manson returned to New York City in February 2018 for a concert at the Paramount. That show also ended abruptly, albeit for very different reasons. On the Paramount's Instagram page, one witness reported, 3 songs in and the dude had a mental breakdown. Another fan wrote on X, formerly Twitter, Marilyn Manson put on the worst show I have ever seen, played 5 songs, about people not saying I love you, and walked off. Witnesses say Manson repeatedly told the crowd that he was unable to properly sing that night, but did so anyway to give paying customers what they came to see. One fan said on Reddit that the singer was also behaving erratically at the pre-show meet and greet. They wrote, "He was wasted. He was worse on stage. Rambled on and on about us loving him." Finally, during the song Disposable Teens, Manson angrily threw down his microphone, pushed over an amp, and left the stage. About 10 minutes later, he returned, ranted incoherently while his backing musicians attempted to play, and then skittered off stage again. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website, or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE, 1-800-656-4673.